You're ready.
Hi everyone, I'm so excited to see you guys. I see a lot of colleagues here, so I appreciate your support very much, and a lot of students here. So thank you guys, and make sure that you sign in so that you do get your bonus points too if you are in my class. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about artificial intelligence in supply chain management. So right now is a really exciting time to be in because we can utilize artificial intelligence to make the supply chain processes more efficient and effective as well. A lot of times these executives will become inundated with data. There's so much data from all different areas of the supply chain. So you have data from distributors, you'll have data from vendors, you have the trucking companies, they will have also their routes and everything else. So you want to make sure that you're doing everything the most efficient and effective way possible. So with the amalgamation of data funneled into these processes, a lot of times executives become overwhelmed. They have information overload. And oftentimes it's just way too much data for even the smartest of human beings to be able to make the best decisions. So then they utilize heuristics and that sort of thing. If you look at a human brain, you have the right brain and the left side of your brain. And the left side of the brain constitutes of the logical side, which is mathematical. And then your right side of the brain is where you actually will make decisions. That's the creative side. So when we are forced to make decisions as business executives, sometimes we make the wrong decisions because we make it based on human emotions and that sort of thing. So with this, you can funnel a vast amount of information into this computer system, and it can make the right decisions for you using all of your information and all of your data. So for those of you that don't know, a supply chain is the process of taking an item from raw materials to the finished product. So every product in your home is the result of some sort of supply chain. So without supply chain management, then we wouldn't have the clothes that we have, the foods that we have, the products that we consume, and that sort of thing. So you have the suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, retailers, and your customers. So it's a lot of information. And I want to show you an AI simulation in action. This artificial intelligence demonstration that I will show you, it is how a supply chain will become more agile within weather constraints. So for any company with multiple distribution centers, retail stores, and in-transit shipments, especially those that are actively in transit, they're quickly adapting the supply chain due to the weather conditions, and sometimes that amounts to delays in the supply chain. So let me go to that. I know, that's the thing. All right. So this is an AI that you can look and see all the places where your trucks are located, and you can simulate the store. And right here you can see that one shipment has been completed. There are 5 active shipments, 5 distribution centers, and 4 retail centers. So when there is a storm, this would be a moderate snowstorm. The suggested shipments would be potentially supply chain shortages due to weather. Consider application supplies to affected locations. So you can reject or approve. So the shipment from Salt Lake City will reroute to Raleigh. The shipment from Salt Lake City will reroute to Boston. So then you can approve or you can deny the shipments. And this is just like a really small simulation of it. You can also talk to the truckers as well. They have tracking systems too, and GPS tracking systems, to where if you are looking for your shipment in the process, you know exactly where it is, and you can triangulate it at all times. And you can also talk to the truck drivers, see where the delays are. So it is really interesting because everybody is so connected right now through these artificial intelligence systems. And it can also tell the truck driver exactly where to reroute, and it'll send it automatically to his GPS system so that it is so streamlined, it's almost turnkey. And so these systems are very, very expensive, but they are also worth it because you reduce a lot of inefficiencies in the supply chain as well. It will also talk to the suppliers too, so if there is a shortage in supply, then it can reroute and connect to a different supplier, and then it can spit you some bids pretty quickly. And then that reduces also the labor force that you would have to utilize, because usually you would need a lot of people to do all of this. And now you can do it through systems applications, which is pretty interesting. So here is one way that we're able to learn supply chain management in the classroom. Is another exciting thing is we have simulations now. So you can simulate a warehouse and distribution simulation where the student can go through and manage an entire warehouse. And we do a warehouse system where it's actually a sock company, and the students will get to design the socks and then try to design the system to encompass how much stock that we should have, how much safety stock that should be included, which is really interesting. And then they have a competition with one another to see who will make the most amount of money in this simulation. And you lose money if there's a stock out. You'll lose money if a lot of customers come in and you don't have it at the appropriate price, and then a competitor has come in and has taken away all of all the customers. So it is really, really interesting, and it's pretty interesting. There, if you are interested in looking it up, there is a free demo version out there. So if you took a picture of it with your phone, you can see it. Those of you that are in supply chain, it's kind of fun. So using artificial intelligence and machine learning to improve demand forecasts is one of the most promising applications for AI in supply chains. So the AI can learn from past experiences and then forecast with more accuracy what the supply and the demand will be. So it is pretty interesting because it does do away with a lot of the Excel spreadsheets and demand forecasting that way, because then it can triangulate more information. And when you funnel the information into the AI, it can also delete information that's not impactful or meaningful. So the information that doesn't make impact to the numbers will delete itself. So that makes it more exciting too. So it also is more accurate because then you don't have somebody keying in all of the information as well. Instead, it can pull from a lot of the systems. It can pull from SAP, it can pull from the warehouses, it can also pull from the labels, the tracking labels. It can pull information from the tracking labels as well. So each box or each item that you ship from point A to point B will usually have some sort of tracking system component. And that tracking system is really instrumental because it'll show like where exactly it is in transit, how much it's worth, the location it's at, and all of that can be funneled into the AI too. And then it alleviates somebody doing all of the data entry and also making mistakes too. And how I'm making an impact with AI in the community is I'm working with Dr. Stadding and Dr. Matthews, And we are working with the Chamber of Commerce, and we're trying to triangulate the underlying issues with Texarkana's workforce. And there's a lot of information that the Chamber of Commerce has. And we're also utilizing survey data as well. And the AI that I am making is going to funnel all of that information into it, and it'll come up with a model so that you can actually manipulate the different variables that can showcase, well, if I do this differently, then that can help facilitate growth and development with the Texarkana region within the confines of the workforce. So it is pretty exciting and interesting, and I'll show you what that looks like. The algorithm so far number 2 or 1? Sorry. My number 1 isn't showing. Got a lot of variables to it. So the algorithm looks like this in its totality, and that goes through a neural network. And the neural network is the basis of AI. It is the code that you utilize, that you funnel that mathematical algorithm into. And another way that I've made impact in the community is I get consulted by the supply chain leaders that are overwhelmed with data, or they might not know exactly how many trucks to purchase or how many trailers to purchase given an influx or reduction in demand. So these trucks and trailers are very, very expensive. And so if you buy too many, then that negatively impacts your bottom line for a lot of years, sometimes 15 years, because they have to finance them over a long time. Plus you have maintenance, you have tires, there's all different types of things that go into play when you buy a truck and a trailer. Plus you have to carry insurance, and there's just a lot of different variables. So, for instance, TSD Logistics, they wanted to know exactly how many pneumatic trailers to purchase, and each one is $75,000 plus a lot of wealth of other expenses. So I had to look at historical data, plus there is a new law that's coming into effect where companies are able to produce more carbon black. And carbon black is their bread and butter. So carbon black is the nasty stuff that makes tires black. And so all of a sudden there's going to be this massive production of carbon black. So they wanted to know, okay, well, with this new information, how many of these should we purchase? Because we don't want it to negatively impact our bottom line. And so they wanted to triangulate that. So then I had to go through and look at so much data. It took me an entire summer to create the AI. And now we go on a field trip to TSD Logistics, and my students get to see the AI and how it actually works and how it calculates exactly how many trucks and trailers that they need. And it updates itself as well. So then it'll tell them, okay, well, you just purchased 105 trailers. Based on this demand, you need to salvage one, or you need to buy 10 more, and it completely refreshes. So it's really exciting and neat and innovative.
Does it tell them where to find the money to buy those 10 trailers?
I'll tell you where to get the money from.
That's the financial AI.
Right.
Right, exactly.
So what's the difference between regular data analytics and AI data modeling? What's the difference?
They're starting to really commingle right now. So it just depends. So you can have big data where you can pretty efficiently go through a plugin through Excel that can really funnel that information. But what an AI can do is try to alleviate the way that you have to input data. And it also, like if you have PDF data, and then you have handwritten data, and then you have data from, say, SAP or Oracle, and all these different places, it's almost impossible to get it to amalgamate without some sort of data entry. And that data entry is where a lot of the mistakes come from as well. So then it can actually streamline the information. And with AIs, you can have it read handwriting as well. So it really, really helps. And so the purchase orders too, that's where it really helps, because a lot of the information can scan through a PDF from a purchase order, and then the AI can find exactly where it is on the purchase order, and then it can spit it through. And then you can also go in and create, database and spreadsheets within it. So it's really, really helpful. One example that I have is it gives also executives a really good way to be able to present information. So if you think about the executive that is inundated with data and information, so this looked like Excel spreadsheets and that sort of thing. When I spit it through the AI, it would showcase the freight maintenance, total maintenance, the mileage, the driver pay, which is a line haul pay, meaning the amount of money the driver was paid throughout the haul experience. And then freight maintenance, freight revenue, all of that. And these are each individual trailers. And then the TSD Logistics was able to create a KPI based on each individual trailer then. Because before they couldn't do that without the AI. They were like, okay, well, we need to drive trailers, I don't know, this amount of mileage at least. Now with these, because each trailer was a little bit different. Some of them had pneumatics, and then some of them had, better equipment to drive up north, because up north you need a different trailer that is equipped for that because of the salt on the roads, the tires are different, and everything else. So having the individual KPIs really did help. So then it gives a way that you could take this type of information into a boardroom instead of like an Excel spreadsheet and say, okay, well this is the reason why I need this amount of trailers. This is the reason why we need to push these trailers harder. And they can actually have an illustrative way to make decisions rather than just having plain spreadsheets and that sort of thing. Does that make sense?
The KPI is?
Oh, key performance indicators, yes. Yes, so does anyone have any questions for me? Okay.
I do. Out of a deep, deep well of ignorance of anything having to do with AI or business in general. You mentioned that you had to spend a lot of time essentially figuring out the parameters and the data points that you wanted to put into the AI and all of that. Can AI now, or will it soon in the future, be able to identify those itself? I mean,
sometimes they're really complex ones. Some of them can
Cool.
through machine learning.
yeah.
So it will learn from what you put into it and that sort of thing. So it can learn and grow. They're complex and adaptive, meaning as things change, it will change too, rather than having to recreate it and that sort of thing.
Sure.
So it does help triangulate what you need to look for. A lot of times, especially businesses that have been in business for a long time, and maybe businesses that are medium-sized, not like huge, they have a hard time establishing what key performance indicators do I need to start tracking, what makes sense. We've tracked this forever, and instead of continuing to track things that you've done historically that may not mean anything today, it can help facilitate change and decide, okay, well, this is what you really do need to be tracking. And that helps too. Yes.
Cool.
So, we were talking earlier about some of the problems of heuristic shortcuts in decision
You're
making.
the expert at that.
And sort of biases in
Yes.
logical decision making. So I know that from in other AI systems, one of the problems we've been having is that it will start to, as it does machine learning, it will start to incorporate those biases.
It can.
So we wind up with AI systems that are actually demonstrating stereotypes and prejudice and stuff like
So
that.
that's where,
Does that
that
occur?
is where the programmer has to really understand those biases, because you can create an AI that is more biased than humans. And that's because it can pull from demographics and pull from the amount of income somebody makes. So if you're trying to facilitate change in a social context, you have to really be careful with the information that you're funneling, and then you have to try to alleviate the bias through mathematics. So if you have just anybody doing it, you can have just as much or more bias.
So would that mean that it's important to have diversity in your programmers, right?
I think
Because when they're
so.
programming, they're probably going to bring their own cultural biases
Right.
into that, right?
Yes, and you have to have programmers that are aware of how the information that they put into it can A, already be biased, or B, can be biased based on how it triangulates information. It takes a skill, and it takes the right mathematical weights and algorithms. The algorithm is paramount, because the algorithm that you start with, you have to make sure that it's weighted appropriately and everything to not have those biases, to smooth those out. And so that's what makes it challenging and kind of exciting for the programmer too. And then a lot of times programmers will become friends with one another, consult with each other, and then you have a peer-reviewed system as well, where you can get your programs peer-reviewed, and you want to make sure that you're dealing with a software programmer that does peer review, that understands the ramifications for a business, especially if you have those biases interjected in their KPIs and stuff. Then somebody somewhere will eventually call them out on that, and that could be really, really bad. So that's a very good question. I like that. Yes.
Hi, I'm trying to understand a little more what this actually is. You said you're doing, spent the summer doing some neural network programming.
Yes.
Okay. Am I right to assume that there is like a software package that does the AI, and that's a package we buy and put it on a machine, and then there's some specific syntax that you're using for this package? Is that specific for the package you buy, or is there a general language that is used across different
Both.
AI softwares? And do we as a college, a university, own an AI software package that we've put somewhere?
Not for supply chain, we don't, but we should get one. I'll use Raspberry Pi a lot. I do my own coding. I have a computer keyboard and a mouse that I code. And in that keyboard, to rapidly create these codes, because they are huge, each key is programmed that has like a big chunk of code to save myself a lot of time. So then I can code very, very fast.
Who owns the AI package you were working with?
So I had TSD purchase the package.
TSD purchased one,
Yes.
they own it, and you were working on
Yes.
their package.
And then, but there's a lot of different good solutions. IBM has a good solution. I really like IBM's for artificial intelligence. I think that one's good. You would literally have to be a software coder though in order to really get in there. And that's the problem. There needs to be better systems where everyday users can go in and use
these
them.
packages are kind of focused on a specific area, like
Yeah.
the one TDS bought is a logistics AI package.
Right, you have logistics ones.
You don't just
it's-
buy an AI package and it does AI.
Right. Yeah, they're pretty specific. It's kind of like different software systems, you have to get it pretty specific. And the supply chain ones, you need a coder to utilize them. But I don't know about the other ones. Some of them might be more user-friendly, which would be really good, because they can triangulate information so quick and find those KPIs and things. As long as you know what you're doing with as far as code goes. So,
Okay.
but there's a lot of good, like, there's some fun, intuitive books that you can get on Amazon too on neural networking, like neural networking for beginners and things like that. They're really fun. You can actually create a neural network yourself in a weekend, read a book on it, and the neural network that you can create on neural networking for beginners, and you can read handwriting. So then you can create an AI to just read anybody's handwriting, and it's really fun and exciting. Did you have a
Have
question?
neural networking for dummies.
They do. They actually do, and it's a good book. It has a lot of illustrations in it too.
Nice.
It's a cool book.
Cartoons
Probably time for one more.
for me.
Okay.
Terry?
Well, I'm ignorant of all this, among other things, but as I'm listening to you talk, these systems learn from past and current transactions that are taking place. Is that a valid statement?
Yes.
Okay. Here's what I'm sitting here thinking about. That's all well and good,
Right.
and it optimizes given things are as they are.
Right.
But what happens when there is a disruption to the system? Like, now we're gonna have big tariffs with China. Or, the Russians are gonna take over Venezuela and oil prices are gonna skyrocket. Or, you follow what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, it seems to me that these systems can't anticipate that. That's where you have an individual going, well now,
You're right.
is it possible to somehow program events that we anticipate happening into the system, in a probabilistic way?
Yeah, you can do
into the
that.
system?
Yes. So you can have, and that's what I'm doing with the chamber. So the chamber wants a type of way to so I'm going to simulate the Texarkana's workforce. In this simulation that I'm using through neural networks, it will show, okay, well, if we decrease everybody's earnings by $10,000 annually, what's going to happen to the workforce? If we increase it by $15,000, what's going to happen to the workforce? If we add more education, more educational funding, so all of these variables are manipulatable to where then they could try to make decisions on where they want to focus their efforts in terms of a chamber, because right now they're in a swing of trying to encourage regional and economic development. And so in order to stimulate growth, they have to really delve into where are our pitfalls and why is it not growing. And so this should help triangulate the nuances of what's going on underneath the hood, if that makes sense.
I think there's a misconception that any machine learning will be independent of a human being at some point in time. That is not the case. It will always be an interaction of the machine and the individuals that run it.
Right. And the thing that it does,
Well, I get the programming biases you all have been talking about.
Yeah.
I get that.
I saw a documentary called Terminator that says that, yeah, sorry. Anyway, we're sadly out of time right now, but if you have further questions for Jamie, I'm sure she'd be more than happy to answer them. On the other hand, let's go ahead and thank her very much. Thank you. Thank you, folks.
It means the world to me. I'm completely tickled that y'all did. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.